Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut, and Star Citizen's Star Marine has been released, finally. After being delayed a numerous amount of times, we get to delve into the PvP Marine-on-Marine action on the ground. Well, kind of. You do still get to fight in space, but you know what I mean, with assault rifles, with pistols, snipers, and so on and so forth, and it is glorious. For the most part. Before I get into the fine details of the good, the bad, and the ugly about the current state of Star Marine, let me just say that the basics of this mode are as follows. There are two ways you can play, basically online multiplayer against other people, and you can create a private lobby. There are also two modes, a free-for-all and a essentially domination mode, right? Where you capture and hold different spots on your on the map for your team, and the team with the most amount of points at the end of the round wins, or the team that reaches a certain cap of points. So that's the basics of the gameplay that we are allowed to experience thus far. Sorry, that we can experience thus far. Fairly basic, fairly down to the bones, right? Obviously, more modes will be put into the game later, and this will be integrated into the universe, and so on and so forth, yes. But, thus far, fairly basic, and this trend continues when you take a look at the customization you can do. Essentially, there are two classes of, I say two classes, there are really two types of armor, light and medium. And that's pretty much the extent of different types of soldiers that you can play as. As far as weapons are concerned, again, fairly bare bones there. You have a ballistic weapon, an assault rifle, and you have a laser assault rifle as well. That's at least how I would describe it. You can maybe classify as an SMG. It looks like it behaves more like an assault rifle, though. It's fairly big as well. And these have both disadvantages and advantages to them, and they behave really well. The ballistic rifle, the assault rifle, feels like an assault rifle, and you can see in the gameplay that is going on in the background now. These various weapons, towards the end of the video, you'll see the laser assault rifle as well. The sniper and the pistol are useless, for lack of better words. The shotgun I have not tried out myself yet in the gameplay that you can see, but it's pretty much what you would expect it to be. It's a shotgun. Now, on to the good first. The gameplay itself is rather fun. It's a 24-player map. Well, both of them are. There are two maps right now available. Again, pretty minimalistic, but what are you going to do about it? And the gameplay itself is pretty damn fun. It was pretty entertaining to record, and it was pretty entertaining to run around the two various space stations, murdering people with these guns, and the gunplay was solid. The gunplay, especially for the laser rifle, I think I prefer it for the laser rifle, is very solid. It feels like a laser rifle, right? It perhaps should have even less recoil, because, you know, in its nature being a laser rifle and all, it's done for balance reasons, but it has fairly low recoil, is extremely accurate. However, it does less damage than the ballistic equivalent, simply because the ballistic equivalent is harder to use, and, you know, it's harder to actually hit the target with it. Which is why you'll see most people running around with ballistic weapons, or the ballistic assault rifle available to us. Mostly because, in my opinion, it's a little bit more powerful, especially if you can reliably hit the target with it. But anyways, balance talk aside, the sniper and the pistol are rather useless. And we're starting to get into the negatives of the current build of Space Marine, and believe me, there are plenty of those to get into, and people on Twitter have been rather furious about the current stage of the engine and the current state of the game and the entire FPS module, which I kind of understand considering the amount of time it's been delayed, but you also have to understand that it's all still in development. It's all a very early build of what the FPS module is supposed to look like, so before I delve into criticizing it any further, just bear that in mind. That said, let's begin with the bugs. People are glitching into a lot of stuff, which is kind of a problem, and it was a problem with the FPS module and the entire moving around in, as a human rather than as a spaceship in Star Citizen since, well, forever, right? you bump into stuff and you glitch into stuff, and they still haven't seemed to have gotten rid of that, which is, you know, a bit sad, but I'm sure they're working on that, and that will get fixed in the future. Balance-wise, well, other than a working team balance system, I find the guns are pretty damn fine. You know, there's not a lot in there to balance, so yeah, that's all fine in my experience. Sorry about that. What is a little bit concerning is the lag and the ping. Not from a computer's perspective and from an FPS perspective. I'm getting fairly fantastic FPS, to be brutally honest with you. Then again, I am playing this on an i7 6700K and a GTX 1060, so you'd expect the frame rate to be rather high, especially if you turn all the effects down. But the lag, the teleporting people, and the weird animations that result that are a result of this, that I expect to be, you know, a little bit less noticeable, to say that. You'll note the ping at the end of the round. Mine was around 160 in every game I joined, which is a little bit weird, but, you know, perhaps it'll be fixed within the next few days. I sort of doubt it, though. In terms of any more bugs that are present, well, yeah, you tend to shoot people a lot, and because of the lag, it tends to take a while for them to die. You know, maybe they died like 2 seconds ago, but you're still shooting them, and you don't see that they're dead because their name tag is still there, and they're still pointing their gun at you, or even firing their gun at you in some situations. So, again, the connectivity and the desyncing and the lag issues are a bit annoying. Also, you'll see one situation where I can't fire my gun. I can throw a frag grenade, but I can't fire my gun. I can't switch my gun either. I'm frozen, basically. This type of desyncing that happens, also tends to be a little bit annoying, as you can imagine. Furthermore, something nice now, and I guess in contrast, the integration between zero-G combat and fighting in these corridors where artificial gravity does exist is really good. It's really, really nice. It's really smooth. It feels terrific. If you're inside a corridor and firing through the door outside into space where there's, you know, hovering people and floating and whatnot, it's an awesome feeling. It works. It isn't broken. You do actually get to shoot them. There are advantages and disadvantages to being in both positions. It creates very interesting situations. I think towards the end of the video, you'll see some of that as well, where I'm outside floating around in space and, you know, sort of ducking behind cover in zero gravity, ducking behind these different constructs that are out there, while these 3 or 4 opponents are on the ground over there, or inside the gravity tunnel. Or inside the, not a tunnel, it's a corridor, but inside that corridor, there is gravity inside, and we're sort of shooting at each other. And it creates really fantastically fun situations, and it really points out to just how entertaining this entire system can be, whereby at one point you're fighting, you know, inside a space station, somewhere on the bridge, for example, and the next you jump out and you fight in space again, you know, with the same equipment and everything. It creates really, really fun situations. On the other hand, the fact that the maps are so small, and perhaps the fact that we're all very new to this, led to the fact that it felt a lot like Call of Duty. As in, this was advertised as a very strategic, tactical shooter of, you know, moving slowly, coordinating with your teammate, clearing corridors and stuff like that. And I think, especially the first few games I played, like 90% of us in the matchmaker and in the game at that point tried to play it like that. It just doesn't work. Yeah, it just doesn't work. It really quickly descended down into just running around in corridors, gunning people down at close range. Pretty much the first one that starts shooting is the one that's going to win. So it dissolves into that, not because not due to a lack of us trying, but simply that's pretty much, it's the most effective way of beating the other team, right? It's simply not effective to slowly go around scanning corners and you know, sorry about that. You know, slowly progressing through the map. So that's perhaps a little bit of a bummer for those of us who expected a more methodical shooter rather than a running around, gunning people down, guns blazing, stuff like that. Also, you'll notice when you throw a grenade, it doesn't, leave from your hand, it leaves from your crotch. Which, I can think of several rude jokes, and probably so can you. Go ahead, tell me down in the comments, I want to know. But, on a more serious note, yes, you seem to launch grenades from your crotch rather than from your arm, which is a bit weird. Again, no doubt that will be fixed soon, but it is worth noting. But other than that, I mean, the biggest criticism I can think of to the overall experience that I've had thus far, and the biggest downside for me, has been how clunky the entire system feels. And it's difficult to explain what I mean by this. You really need to play it and to experience it for yourself, which, luckily you can now, but you need to experience it for yourself to realize what I mean. Now, once again, in all due honesty, this is simply because of the fact that it's, in early access, so on and so forth. Yeah. I think we all understand that, but it still needs to be said that it feels rather clunky. It's partially because of the bugs, partially because of the frame rate, the desyncing, the way people move as well, and, the way grenades are thrown, the way guns shoot, the way people tend to slightly teleport around at times. Stuff like that. It really makes for an odd experience of you can't shake off this feeling that something's inherently broken about this entire fighting system that you're participating in. Now, no, needless to say, I'm not expecting a crisp and perfect system off day one. That's not what I'm saying, but what I am saying is that I do expect stuff like this to be worked on and to be fixed in the eventual future, but for now, it simply feels broken, and it feels not very, very clean, and not very good, and not very responsive as perhaps most of us would like. Now, other than the obvious lack of content, which is understandable again, and the lack of weapons, maps, stuff like that, and the general bugs and clunkiness, I haven't found much wrong with the entire concept and with the overall entire style. Provided these things that I mentioned are fixed, we have a very, very interesting shooter on our hands. Obviously this is just a part of the grand game itself, but taking a look at this element individually and on its own, we have a very fascinating shooter that we haven't seen before. And whilst, yes, I was hoping for something more methodical like Tom Clancy's Siege, for example, I'm hoping that the game moves in that direction more as we progress through the story, through the development process and that entire story, right? What we do have is a very fascinating piece of work, simply because we don't see a lot of games take this type of environment and this type of technology and make FPSs from them. Make MMOs with spaceships and space stations and star systems and all that. Fair enough, but to see this type of system implemented relatively well, again, it's a bit clunky, but hoping eventually in the near future that gets fixed. We don't see a lot of these shooters where you can jump to literally the void of space and then back into a more traditional, shall we say, environment and seamlessly, continue combat. That is very good, very interesting, and I hope they play more on it. I hope they never stop playing on that entire system. Perhaps introducing a map where you could turn the gravity off across the entirety of the map would be beneficial as well, and you'd have people turning it on and off every now and again, which could be a little bit annoying, come to think of it. You need to make it hard to get to. Or put it in the middle of the map where, and then again, maybe have a cooldown. Like, yeah, that's an idea. Have a cooldown, and like every 2 minutes the gravity either turns on or turns off, and that would be an interesting thing to do as well. And you can see sort of inverted combat maybe, You know, when you're walking on walls instead of, or on the ceiling instead of on the floor during Zero-G combat. That would be very interesting to see, and also integrate the hundreds of different guns that we've bought with our currency in the universe, and introduce them into Space Marine. That I'm really looking forward to as well, and also more classes of soldiers. That would really help. There is one system though that I kind of like, but kind of dislike too. I dislike it immediately the way it is, but I do like the system being there, and that's in the entire bleeding out and getting wounded. Namely, if you get your head really shot up, or your arm really shot off, it doesn't matter, as in, it doesn't influence the way you fight. Which I'm not a big fan of. I kind of wish that it did. You know, if I get my leg blown off, I want to be limping across the battlefield, if that system is there, you know. I sort of wish that is done. And it probably will be in the future, but it's not in the game right now. What is in the game is bleeding out. Namely, if you take a lot of punishment from any type of weaponry, you start to bleed out and need to find a medkit. Now, the way these work is a little bit finicky, as I'm looking at my health and I think it regenerates your health, but it doesn't heal your limbs, which makes sense. I think that's how it worked eventually. I haven't really quite grasped the concept yet. How this would really work well is if you put in medics. Yeah? If you put in medics into the game, and medic as a class into the game, then you know, obviously they could heal up people. Maybe not revive them. I don't think that would be a good idea, but heal up bleeding soldiers and you know, fix up broken limbs on the battlefield and stuff like that. That would be really cool. And there's a lot of potential here, I guess. Ultimately, is what I'm trying to get at. There is a huge amount of potential within Space Marine. Unfortunately, it is still underdeveloped. Needs a lot more time, a lot more money, and a lot more effort to be put into it in order to become a fantastic part of Star Citizen. But my experience thus far has been relatively positive, with a fairly large influence of those bugs and that entire clunky feel to the game that is really dragging it back quite a bit. But obviously a lot of potential, and overall I think it's been a hit. Despite the hundreds upon hundreds of tweets that I read today of people saying that it's a disaster and it looks worse than 5 years ago. And not actually 5 years ago, but probably a year or two ago, I think someone said, well, the game looks worse than then, which I really disagree with that. And I think the game looks fairly decent right now, but considering how long we've been waiting for Star Marine, maybe I expected a little bit more, and I expect it to be improved upon quite a bit in the near future. And I don't mean like 3 years from now, I mean around mid-2017, I expect it to be a lot better than it is right now, and a lot of the bugs that are here to be completely eradicated. Hopefully that's not too unreasonable for the development team, and well, that's basically it. That's my experience with Space Marine. It's fun. It's fun. I think above anything else and above all the brokenness, it's relatively fun, and I encourage you to try it out as well, especially if you own a copy of Star Citizen. Anyways, that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been Juggernaut. Please remember to like and subscribe down below if you enjoyed this video. Until next time, take care, and bye-bye.